Welcome to Yeshiva Daf. Shir sponsor Loinish Masam Yakshon Leavas Yitzchok. We're holding in Metzia Daf Kovches, and we're starting in Amud Aleph. We started the sugya regarding if Simonim Deraisa or Simonim Derabbanan. That's what the Gemara spoke about. I failed to mention yesterday, in a moment, just something interesting to think about, just to give us a little bit of a connection to the sugya and how we understand it. That Yeshua and others bring the idea, what's the difference between Simonim Deraisa and Simonim Lav Deraisa? Or more accurately, if you hold Simonim Lav Deraisa, why not? Why Simonim won't work? So the Yeshua says there's two ways to explain it. One way to explain it, because maybe he's lying. So that's why I don't rely on Simonim. Or the pshat is not because he's lying, just because maybe there's something else, another item that has a similar simon. He says it's black. There's another one which is black. It's round. I never know. Now he's lying. My nefkamino. So the Yeshua wants to say the churul nefkamino will be what the Gemara says later. Because the Gemara says that Simonim muvakim, when it's a simon muvak, that's very individual, then everybody agrees that what? That then it's a good simon. Why? So if you say he's a Ramai, maybe he's lying. Maybe he saw by his friend and he knew about it. But if you say it's because maybe there's a mix-up, simon muvak, you don't have a mix-up. So it works better if you say that way. Others want to say lav dafka because it could be that simon muvak means it's very hard to lie about it. It's very hard to come and figure out what your friend has as a simon muvak.
If you're saying Simon Lav Deraisa, how will you ever be able to make kind of behavior? On what basis?
Eidim.
What? That belong to him?
Yeah. Eidim, that says this.
On the basis of what?
No.
It has to be a simon.
No.
I know it's in.
Yeah, for sure. But the Eidim will recognize that he had their chayfetz.
How are they recognizing?
So Toy says because of Simonim, but the Simonim are not.
Right.
But
So
as Eidus is different.
Have to come up.
No, Eidus for sure works based on recognition.
Right, but Eidus is Eidus.
Yeah, Eidus is different. That's why Eidus works. Okay, so the Gemara says the Gemara, Omar Rov is about 8 lines to the top of Kovches Amadaf. Omar Rov in Timtza Loimar Simonim Deraisa. If you want to tell me this is Simonim Deraisa, so what do you mean? In Timtza Loimar, Hapashli Simonim Deraisa. We just concluded. That's why we ended the sugi yesterday. That we brought a rice Simonim Deraisa. So we could say an answer. One of the answers that more brought that Droy Shechich Loisa means Be'edim. Not necessarily Be'edim Simonim. So we don't have a raya ruro that's Simonim. So now it comes relevant. It says here we're going to speak about when you have a contradiction. What do you do? Simonim v'Simonim Yaniach. You have two people. Each one has a simon. Each one recognizes the chayfetz with his simonim. So you can't give it to anyone. Nobody has a better raya than the other. Simonim ve'edim. You have simonim against edim. Then what? Yinosim l'ba'al edim. You give it to the one who has edim, because edim is always better than simonim. Simonim v'simonim ve'edechot. What happens? You have simonim and simonim. Then you have 1/8. 1/8 says this belongs to him. Eidechot kevan delei sadami ve'yaniach. The Eidechot doesn't add or does anything, because the Eidechot doesn't give you more trust than the Simonim itself. It's supposed to be a whole Simonim Deraisa. So Torah says you should rely on Simonim. Eidechot is not a good Eidus. Eidei Arigo ve'eidei Nefilo. One person, 2 Eidim say, we saw this guy weave this clothing. And the other one says, we saw this guy losing this chayfetz. Tinos and Leidei Nefilo, give it to the one who lost it. Why? Hi, the other one weaved it. That means if maybe he weaved it, but he sold to somebody else. Midas orkoi umidas rachpoi. One knows the length, one knows the width. Tinosen lemidas orkoi. Give it to the one who knows the width, the length. The midas rachpoi shur kamishaylo kan nechase lomar vekai. The width is very easy to mishai. So the way the son of the Rishonim explained,
it's not a simon, or it's a simon.
It's a simon, but the other one is a better simon. What does it mean? So the way the Rishonim explains like this: the way they had their clothing those days, you can just imagine you have like a big blanket that goes around your body. So the width is very easy to see. The width is the height of the body. The length, I don't know how many times it's rolling around the body. So therefore, the length is less of is hard to know than the width. Midas Arko, Midas Ruach, Midas Gomav. One knows the Oirich, one knows the Reichav, and one knows the Oirich and Reichav together. Gomav means you know the length and the width together. Inasli Midas Arko, Ruach. So the person is more specific. He knows the length and the width. The other guy just knows diameter. I don't know what would be the right word for it. He knows both together. Midas Arko, Midas Ruach boy. One knows the length and the width, but the other one knows the weight. He knows why? It's more of a simon. He knows more about the chayfetz. I get the when I get two. The husband and wife are arguing. Each one says, "I know the simon they get." You know, why? Because she knows about it. That means she got it. So talk about the length and width. Maybe she saw him holding it. She figured out what it is. Hello, Nekav Yeshiva Tzados Plonis. We talk about it as a hole, which is called a Siman Muvak. The Tzados Plonis, there's a hole next to one of the words. That's a raya that that's something that she got that was in her hand. Speak about the string that ties the get. You know, why? Because how does she know about it? Probably she got it. What are we talking about? If it's white or red, maybe she saw it when he took it in his hands. Talk about the length of the string. To know the length of the string, you really need to have it. He says it was in my wallet. She says it was in his wallet. He knows why? She knows the He knows. He puts always his documents in his wallet or in his briefcase. So that's not a good raya to say that she knows where it is. One hour over here, big discussion that we're showing is we spoke about Simonim. Robert started Simonim Deraisa, and you have Simonim against 18. What happens if you have Simon Muvak against 18? He knows exactly, he knows the hole next to the get, and the 18 say otherwise. Is a Simon Muvak against 18 better than 18 or less than 18? Like Machlokes is the Rishonim. No, but Simon Muvak is telling, I know the Simon Muvak. And he's saying we know it belongs to somebody else. So Shailei is a Simon Muvak something which is a Raya Brura. The Simon Muvak means it's his. But Simon Muvak is not better than 18. 18 is always going to be better. Discussion that we're showing, how do we treat Simon Muvak? Okay. So like the Mishnah now. Until when do you have to announce until his neighbors know about it? Until his neighbors know about it. Which neighbors? So the Gemara is going to ask which neighbors. Neighbors of who? You have to know until the neighbors of that know about the Aved. For 3 regalim. Until after the last regal for another 7 days. For him to have enough time to walk 3 days to get home. And you're able to go back 3 days. It'll be a for 1 day. In other words, what's going to be machris? The person who lost. It's going to say, I lost this chayfetz. And he's going to go around. So he needs to go home to realize he didn't forget it at home. He goes home. Maybe it's in my house. And he goes back. Now what we talk about in this Mishnah is clearly from the Gemara. Talk about the pashtas when the base of Mishas Kayim. The Acharim say even after his Mishas Kayim, they still use Yerushalayim as the location where people came to. But the idea is to come to Yerushalayim. And Yerushalayim, that's where they announced the Chayv. It's called why Yerushalayim? Because that's where everybody came. All the Am Yisrael coming to Yerushalayim. So when they come to Yerushalayim, they announce, we lost, there's a Aved that was lost. Why Shalosh Regalim? So Hashem explained they need to have a full year because things forgotten after 12 months. So full year, 3 Regalim usually means a full year. Because even though it could be a little less than a year, but it's encompassing 3 years over there, or usually a year. So that's why you can do 3 Regalim, wait another week. So even if he didn't hear about the first 2 Regalim, the 3rd Regalim, he goes back home. He says, did I lose it? He goes home, he checks, he says, he finds it, he comes back. That's how you do an Aveda. That's how you do a Achraza, an announcement of an Aveda. Says the one, Tano, who's the Shcheni? Shcheni Aveda. The neighbors of the Aveda. My Shcheni Aveda, what does it mean, neighbors of Aveda? The neighbors of the owner, you know where it is, go to him. The neighbors of the place where you found the Aveda. Found the Aveda in Lawrence, make sure that everybody in Lawrence knows that something was found. And then they maybe know somebody, they'll find it. Maybe it's theirs, Rashi says. Rita says, you put it, it's time to go to the Regel, and then you have to have 7 days, 3 days to get home. So more, 3 days to get home. But we learned in Maseches Tainis, where we knew, you ask for rain on Gimel Cheshvan. On the 7th boy. Why? It's 15 days after Sukkot. So the last one will come to the border of Eretz Yisrael, Pras. The first already asked why Dafka Nahar Pras. You want to get to a certain distance, you get out of Eretz Yisrael before you start asking for rain. Right? So before you start asking for rain, you need a you want to make sure you have to have 15 days so people can leave and go get back home. Right? So a question. Someone asked me this question actually in Sukkot. Why we care only when you're leaving and not when you're coming for Pesach? We don't stop asking for rain 15 days before Pesach. Right? Sukkot, after Sukkot, you don't ask for rain for 15 days to leave everything clear. But before Pesach, you ask for rain until Pesach. Why didn't you stop 15 days before? So someone brought me the answer. So I think one of the name of Chaim Kayevsky says a simple answer. When you're in the summer and the rain season did not start, suddenly starts rain, it drives people crazy. They don't want to come to the regular. But when you're well through the whole winter and you come into Pesach, you're already ready the whole winter, so it's a little more rain, you're not going to stop for rain for that. So anyway, what says over here? The verse says that you're going to come to Nahar Pras, you need 50 days. And we said over here, 3 days to get to home. Says the Gemara, depends if it's first base of English or the second base of English. There's so many Jews. Like the sand on the sea, there's so many people. You need much more time to go back to your home. Not that many people. 42,306. That's all it was. So maybe you don't have to have so many. It takes longer to get home. What do you mean? It was basically the Sheni. The Sheni was also, they lived in the same cities. There were less people, but they had the same distance. If so, say the opposite. There were so many people living in Eretz Yisrael. The Mitzvahs Alma, there's a lot of people on the roads. So people are traveling day and night. So it's enough for 3 days you can get out to Eretz Yisrael fast. You don't have that many people in Eretz Yisrael. You don't have that many people. It's not so much tzavto. You don't have so many travelers in the day and the night. So in other words, when you have a lot of people, so there's buses and there's trains and there's planes and people are traveling a day and night, and it's always busy. So then you're able to get a ride to get out of Yerushalayim back down there. It's all 3 days. But when there's not a lot of people, it's scattered around. So you go in the day, and that's what you do. That's it. So that's why it takes much shorter. Now, so the Tosfos asks, so why 3 days? When you have a lot of people, you travel day and night. When you don't have a lot of people, you travel only the day. So it should be half. It should be 7 days, not 3 days. When you travel day and night. So he says when you travel day and night, this is what Tosfos gives us the yesod for traveling. That you're doing a break. Once you're doing a break, so until you start again, until you stop again, you have to find a hotel, you have to step, then it takes you much longer. If you go straight, then it's quick. Says the Gemara. So that was answer number one. The Shvisha with the Sheni, more tries two options how to differentiate between the Shvisha and the Sheni. Rava Omar, Loishon, the Shvisha, Loishon, the Sheni, no difference. You're right. You could make it faster. It's slower. I mean, it does take longer usually. But in Aveda, we're not asking you to go for the extreme, people to go as slow as possible. We assume 3 days, and that's good enough. What do you see over here? So when you announce, what do you announce? You announce Glima. The Gemara is going to bring a discussion about this later. What does he announce? Does he announce I found something? Or he announce I found a clothing? What he announces is clothing. He says, how do you know? If you just say I found something, the guy needs to go back home and say, did I lose anything? He doesn't know if he lost anything. He doesn't know what the guy found. He's going back home. He's going to check everywhere, through his clothes, through his closet, through his house, everything. Then he'll see if he lost something. If he says I found the coat, he's going to go to the coat closet right away. Raya is very specific. Rabbanon did not matriach somebody that same answer. You're right. Really, it should have been a little longer. If you really want to be strictly going based on the logic, how long it takes, take longer. We want to give some limitation of what you need to do, and that's it. The guy should figure it out, and we're not asking you to spend too much time on that first. What? No, because the one. No, talk about how many days does the guy have to be machris? Where it says add another day. No, where it says I have a rayo, he's not machris a coat. Because if he was machris aveda, you should have added one more day. So well, no, he's not machris a coat. He's machris aveda. Hi, added one more day. Now the reason why we don't add a coat, we're going to say later, because you're choshish to Aramai. Someone's going to lie about it. If you don't know what it is, it's much harder to lie. If you know what it is, that's the reason to say the other side. The first regular says, this is my first regular, I'm announcing this Aveda. Regular Sheni, regular Sheni. The second regular says the second regular. Regular Shlish, stop. Regular Shlish doesn't have to say, just say, I didn't say anything, everybody knows it's the last one. You should say regular Shlishi. Someone's not going to hear him so clearly. My third regular. He said third or second. Sheni Na'am is tomorrow on Daf Kafres on base. Also, there will mix up between the second and the first. Who cares? Even if you made a mistake, he still has one more regular. So the last regular, you want to avoid confusion. Just say this is a regular. Everybody knows the last one. So about Torah Bona by Shayna called Mishimotza Veda Machriza Shloisha Regolim Achar Regel Achor Shivas Yomim. In the beginning, that's what they did, like our Mishnah. Yomach is 3 regolim, and after the last regel, Shiva Yomim. Why? Because you have Shloisha, V'yachzor Shloisha, V'yachzor Yachis Yomechod. 3 days to go, 3 days to come back, and then to look for it for 1 day. Mishachar Beisavim Shibon Ben Rameinu. Once Beisavim was Nechov, but people did not go there to Israel anymore, at least from once on a certain stage. Hitkinu Shim Machrizi, but the Knesios, Uvabatim Midrashis. You go and announce in shuls and misredish. Umishirabu Anasim, Itkinushim Moidim Leshchenov, Ulamiyudov Vidayoy. People became Anasim, people are forced to take it away. So they just say to your friends and family, go tell the family and friends, the place I found an Aveda if you know anybody who lost it. What's the case? Because they say the Aveda has to go to the king. Whatever is lost goes to the king. He found this pile of money. So this person saw him, he was afraid to take it. Don't worry, you can take it. We're not a Persian that says that the king gets everything. You can take it to yourself. Okay? With this we learn also There was a place called Even Toyin in Yerushalayim. Anybody who lost the Aveda goes over there. Anybody who finds Aveda goes over there. One says that one is Machris and announces the Aveda, the other one gives the Simonim. That's what Choyna Me'agel said when there was too much rain. So Choyne Me'agel said, Rabbi Isai, go check if Eben Atoyin is basically lost, which is almost impossible. If you got to that, as the first we explained, if you got to that stage, I will ask Hashem to stop rain, but in general, I'm not asking Hashem to stop rain. Rav Toiv, I'm not asking for too much. So that's called Eben Atoyin. It was a very, 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 very large stone. There was a few floors high, and on top of that, there was a chazah. This was found, this was lost, etc. to announce everybody. They have now this Josh Fox, when they started this website of Metzia. You go online and you found something, you put it there. That's like the Eben Atoyin. What's the great Eben Atoyin in America? So he says, we'll see in the Gemara exactly what the founder said. He says, this code is mine. What's the simanim? I don't have the simanim. Don't give it to him. Someone who is a liar, you don't give it to him even if you give a simanim. You have to check if he's lying or not. And if he's lying, you don't give it to him. Here's the sugya we said before. What do you announce? Do you announce a clothing? Or do you announce I found something? You announce an aveda. Maybe someone's going to say, yeah, that's a coat. Yeah, it's a blue coat. It's my blue coat. If you choshesh for liars, so you'll never end. He said the Aved didn't say the Simonim. He doesn't give it back. That's our Mishnah. He does announce Avedo. What's the Chiddush? He just announced that I found something. Someone says it's the coat. What the Simonim? I don't know the Simonim. You don't give it back to him. Chiddush says, even though he was able to figure out it was a coat, I still don't give it back to him. If he announced a coat, so what happened? The guy said, I found the coat. The guy said, oh, yeah, it's my coat. What's the Simonim? I don't know. What's the Chiddush? Of course you don't give it to him. He didn't know anything more than what I announced. Really, you do announce a coat. He says glimo and he says simonim. Meaning, according to this, Hoshev Shat, the Gemara is going with the mandamar simonim lav dorais. Simonim is lav dorais, but dorais simonim doesn't work. So midorais, so you have to give simonim, not regular simonim, simonim muvokim, and that's what the Gemara says. Even though he said simonim, it's not good enough until he says simonim muvokim of the chayvetz.
Show me the wrong.
What?
Show me there's a certain movik on the chayvetz.
Yeah. And that's what the Gemara says, so you don't give it to him. If a Ramai, even with Simonim Muvakim, according to this, you don't give it to him. In the beginning, anybody comes and says, here's a Simonim, you give it to him. The people start cheating and lying. Go bring 80 that you're not a liar. The father of Papa lost the donkey. They found it. Also come in the Rabbi Avuno. Only still I see Sadi the lab Ramah. Go bring 80 that you're not a Ramah. The toil, and then you can take it. Also I see Sadi. He brought 80. Do you know if he's a Ramah? It's a strange story here. But they asked, do you know if he's a Ramah? Yes. Now, what do you mean yes? So the push-up shot is they misheard. He said, do you know if he's a Ramah? So they thought he meant, do you know he's not a Ramah? He said, yes. So said the father of Rapapa, oh no, he's saying I'm a Ramah? Well, we said yes, and yes, he's not a Ramah. The problem is, what's the problem? They already testified in Beis Din that he's a Ramah. It makes sense it was a mistake. Why? Because the father of Papa wouldn't bring 80 and will testify against it. That's a shayla. What do you bring the case? The first you go on to say different vortlach here that it wasn't that the Eidim really said a mistake. The Eidim said the right thing. You're just re-explaining what they're saying. It didn't din Eidus. Because really the din is that the Eidim, once they said something, you can't take it back. Even though they made a mistake, even though it was wrong, even though whatever the reason is. But here we explain what they meant. And it's a chedesh din Eidus, you can do such a thing. Okay. So the Mishnah. So a person found an item. Now the Mishnah is going to discuss how long do you hold on to it. You hold on to it, what do you do with it? So we're talking about now animals. The boys, pastures, most we'll see, but mostly animals. The animals you have to feed. So if you have to feed it, it's going to be a person going to lose money in it. So we say like this, if this animal is able to produce income, so let it produce income. The person who found it will feed the animal and take the income to himself to cover his expenses. Any animal that does means creates, adds value, and he eats. They do both. But if it doesn't, you have to sell it. You have to see that it's going to be worthwhile. Why? Because the guy who's finds it, he doesn't have to spend, he doesn't have to lose money for the Aveda. Profits also he can't take. The Pashas. We'll get to that. We'll get there later. But the Pashas Shai profits he can't take. But he can cover his expenses. Now, covering the expenses, why? Because if he doesn't cover his expenses, he can go to the person who lost it and say, pay me back. So if the guy has an animal, he has a pet, and the only thing the pet is lose money, so he's going to lose, who knows how much money on this pet. So therefore you sell it right away. What do you do with the money? You could use the money until the guy comes and give it back to him. In other words, he can take it as a loan, use the money, and then when the guy comes, even if you got lost, you have to pay it. You put it aside. Once it gets lost, you don't have to pay it anymore, because we are it's not yours. You put it aside and you're sharing mechinam until the guy comes and takes the money. And the Gemara is going to explain what does that have to do with the first part of the Mishnah. Says the Gemara, this will go on forever. If you have an animal, you'll feed it and produce it forever. For 12 months. Up to a year you have to do it. Any animal that produces and eats, like a cow and a donkey, for 12 months you take care of it. You value it and you sell it, take the money to the side. When you have weaker animals, like a small sheep, only for 3 months, and afterwards you sell them. Because they don't do a lot of melach. Tani goylim, chicken, you take them only for 30 days. Then you go and value them and you sell them. No, a chicken is like a big animal. They do for 12 months. 12 months. Afterwards you value them and you sell them and you put the money aside. Which are the small animals. This is different than before. Before we said 33 months. Now we say 30 days. The one's going to address that in a moment. Now you go to the chicken again. That we mentioned before. And anything which is more, the tipul is more than, the difference with the Tarnagoyim we mentioned before we talk about male, a rooster. Rooster is a male, right? Usually. And here we talk about, there's a female and the male. The male doesn't really lay eggs. So it's a shorter amount of time than the female. So, take care of it is more than what it's worth. You do only 3 days. And before we said, is 30 days. So, kasha agolim stira between these small animals, the sheep, and the male chicken and geese. Depends what they are. When it says 3 months, Rashi explains Urayo, they're in an area where there's a lot of grass and they can go and graze on their own. It's not very costly to keep them. And the other ones is petuma, where you have to be mifat of them. You have to go and take care of them and feed them. So it's much more expensive. We're talking about a different chicken. It depends if they're big or they're small. Rashi says that if they're big, you have to feed them a lot. So it's more expensive. And the small ones you don't. And the other Rishonim learn the opposite. You're going to point out the Rambam. The Ravi, they can take care of themselves. They go around, they figure out how to get food. And the small ones don't. So different reasons how long you take care of them in order for it to be worth it. One more line over here. Whatever it doesn't produce, don't know how to give it back. Don't make the guy lose a calf in order to save his calves. A small horse for horses. One goose for geese. And a chicken for chicken. Meaning, don't make him lose one of his animals because he needs because you're going to charge him his expenses. And all this goes down to one yisoid, really, of the whole sugya. A person who owns these animals, he prefers to get back his original animal. That's what he wants. He wants the original animal back. But because, as Rashi points out, she's already used to him, she knows exactly where the food is and what to do, and he wants his animal back. But only if he doesn't lose money on it. Once he loses money, he loses the full animal, it's not worth it. So that's really this balance you have to find. When you do it and when you don't do it is based on this.